Hello, my friends. D.L. Anderson here. Welcome back to Transformation by Truth podcast as we share the truth concerning these last days and what you must do to save yourself from the violent times that are just ahead. Today's podcast is a word of truth accounting of the end times. The end is coming. The end is near. Today's podcast is entitled End Times 477, an intro to reverence, how you can naturally display the fruit of reverence. The podcast objectives are analyze the fruit of reverence, reveal why reverence must reach the depths of your heart, and reveal the first test of love in your quest. The tree that does not bear good fruit. Shalom, my beloved brothers and sisters, and welcome to day 332 of our exposition of lawlessness. In the most recent podcast, we concluded our mini series on spiritual values and amorality, revealing how the former defeats the latter. From now, we must move on to the next degree of lawlessness in our path. We, my friends, must take on the spirit of irreverence by unleashing the power of reverence, i.e., the focal degree of the fear of Elohim. By definition, reverence is a feeling of deep respect, veneration, the state of being revered, honored, or esteemed. Now, it shouldn't be too hard to see how reverence is an evolution of spiritual values. To wit, once we realize the value of the most important aspects of our lives, we naturally begin to show reverence for them. Now, I emphasize the fact that the transition from values to reverence is a natural progression, for you can display the fruit of reverence without having any true conversion in your heart. This is unnatural, and yet it happens all the time. And this, my friends, is just one of many reasons why Yahuwah has called me to preach and teach the linear model of holiness. It is for the following reason, amongst others. There is a spiritual origin to every physical event within our world. Ergo, our ascension of the pinnacle of holiness cannot be feigned. It must be authentic, lest we deceive ourselves and others. Now, that was the inflection. Here is the problem. Vis-a-vis, those who resist the linear model of holiness cannot bear good fruit for the simple but sure fact that they are not being transformed. Remember, every step we take on the path to perfection is designed to transform us into the spiritual standard of Yahushua Messiah. And transformation, my friends, is spiritual in nature. To wit, your spiritual man or woman is being transformed, which leads to a corresponding physical transformation, which is confirmed by your fruit, vis-a-vis the fruit of transformation. Yet again, here lies the problem. To wit, many in this nation are trying very hard to produce good fruit without being transformed into the spiritual standard that allows us to bring forth good fruit. As I have said before, and often, Yahuwah is not interested in petty works and lip service. Quite the contrary, he is only interested in your willingness to submit and to walk in obedient faith to his will, such that you can bring forth good fruit. Now, if you don't think it is important for the children of Elohim to bring forth good fruit, Let me tell you something. Yahuwah remains true, and every fool is a liar. For look, listen, it has been written, every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Transforming the depths of your heart. Now, the correlation between transformation and good fruit is not unique to reverence. Quite the contrary, it is common to every degree of holiness. Notwithstanding, it is especially crucial in the case of reverence for the following reason. More so than many of the other degrees of holiness, men and women attempt to operate in reverence apart from transformation. My dear friends, this is plain to see if you consider the definition of reverence. Vis-a-vis, reverence is a feeling of deep respect. The key word being deep, a key attribute which reveals the following. Reverence is a factor of the heart. Ergo, you cannot unlock this power without transforming the depths of your heart. Now, that was the inflection. Here is the problem. Vis-a-vis, many who claim to fear Elohim have not transformed the depths of their heart, to wit, their whole heart. And Yahuwah is not interested in reigning over some fraction of your heart. Quite the contrary, he is only interested in reigning over your whole heart. For this is the only way you can be saved. Despite this fact, many in this nation are not interested in giving Yahuwah their whole heart. What these rebels fail to realize is sure, and I will offer it as an interest point. Consider this, my friends, and be advised. The division of your heart that is not submitted to the desire of Elohim will continue to be ruled by the Ruach of self. This will create an environment where the Ruach of Elohim is forced to strive with you, and your persistent endorsement of the lawlessness that is in your heart. Now, we know how the scenario ends. To it, the spirit of Elohim will leave you. And while you try to convince yourself and others that you honor the Most High Elohim, you will be exposed by your evil fruit. That said, the question we should chiefly entertain is this: how can you tell if someone is bearing bad fruit, seeing as the source is spiritual? The answer is sure. You must operate with the Ruach of Elohim, vis-a-vis the spirit of discernment. Now, it is true that your ability to operate in the spirit of discernment is contingent to your spiritual grade. Ergo, if you lack discernment, there are easier ways to determine the spiritual quality of fruit. For example, just give it time. Along these lines, good fruit will stand the test of time. To wit, good fruit is consistent and it will last, and the one bearing them will not be given to change. Quite the contrary, their fruit will be constant and the quality will increase day by day. This speaks to the next factor that will allow you to determine the spiritual quality of fruit. That is to ask, is the quality and quantity of the fruit increasing? Is it getting better day by day? Now, you can easily determine this factor by observing how men and women respond to the mistakes they have made, whether it is a small matter or a major transgression. Get this: the one bearing good fruit does not cover their faults. Quite the contrary, he or she admits their faults and they repent and they recover. And by the Ruach of Elohim, they transform themselves such that they don't repeat the same mistake the next time around. On the other hand, the one bearing bad fruit works very hard and very foolishly to cover their faults. Alas, they will not repent and they will not recover. And trust me, they will repeat the same mistakes the next time around. The first test of love. Now, I said all of that to show you how it is impossible to unlock the power of reverence if you have not submitted your whole heart to Elohim. And this is something you would fail to do if you have not unlocked the power of spiritual values. Trust me, those who value Elohim have made his will their treasure, which is why they will not struggle to submit their whole heart to him. For look, listen, it has been written, where your treasure is, there your heart shall also be. No doubt, this truth reveals the real issue when it comes to reverence. Vis-a-vis, many don't treasure the will of Elohim, which further reveals that they don't really treasure Elohim, which is why the scriptures reveal their hearts are far from him. Now, the sum of these matters clearly reveals the primary objective of reverence, that is, to honor Elohim and every aspect of his great creation appropriately. Here is why. It is impossible to bring forth good fruit if you do not reverence Yahuwah Elohim as the master of the harvest. And yet, if you do reverence Elohim, then you will naturally honor every aspect of his great creation appropriately. Romans 13, 5 through 10 is revealing. Therefore, it is necessary to be subject, not only because of wrath, but also because of the conscience. Render therefore to all what is due to them. Tax to whom tax is due, toll to whom toll, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor. Owe no one any matter except to love one another. For he who loves another has fulfilled the Torah. Love does no evil to a neighbor. Therefore, love is the completion of the Torah. Now, it is true that love is at the top of the pinnacle of holiness, which you can see by the image to the left. However, there is a unique relationship between the fear of Elohim and love that I will offer as a revelation. Consider this. The same way, all the degrees of holiness are expressions of faith and obedience, they are also confirmations of our love for Yahuwah Elohim. Along these lines, the fear of Elohim is the first major test of love you will encounter in your quest. To wit, it is the first of 7 major milestones in your quest in which you are given the opportunity to prove your love for the Most High Elohim. Now, as amazing and wonderful as this occasion is, the majority in this nation will never achieve this milestone. Why? It's because this milestone is adjacent to another milestone in your quest, vis-a-vis your victory over your sinful nature. Now, here lies the inflection. To wit, you cannot honestly claim that you love Yahuwah if you have not overcome your sinful nature. For look, listen, it has been written, if you love me, you shall guard my commands. Look again and understand. Listen, if you guard my commands, you shall stay in my love, even as I have guarded my Father's commands and stay in his love. Deuteronomy 10, 12 to 13 is revealing. And now, Israel, What is Yahuwah, your Elohim, asking of you? But to fear Yahuwah, your Elohim, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve Yahuwah, your Elohim, with all your heart and with all your being, to guard the commands of Yahuwah and his laws, which I command you today for your good. My dear friends, these verses and many others confirm the association between the fear of Elohim and our love for Elohim. And as reverential fear is established upon virtue, obedience, and faith, it is beyond clear that a man does not love the Father if he refuses to walk in his fear. And as reverence is the focal degree of the fear of Elohim, it is the key ingredient to passing the first test of love within your quest. Selah. Now, here is the final word. The master will not settle for less than your best, for he will put your love to the test. Brothers and sisters, hear me carefully as I say, we are in a nation filled with liars, frauds, and deceivers who all claim they love Elohim, which is the pinnacle of holiness and perfection, and yet they are not operating in the spirit of reverence. As I mentioned in this podcast, reverence is the key to passing the first test of love we encounter in this quest, which makes perfect sense. For reverence is the primary application of righteousness. Ergo, reverence is the first interval in our quest where we persistently begin doing what we know is right. For our reverence for Elohim incites us to elevate his will and his righteousness above every other path and pursuit we encounter in this life. Trust me, this is a very big deal. And it is just another reason why the fear of Elohim is such a critical degree of holiness and why it is strategically designed to unlock every other milestone you achieve in your quest. Heretofore, I recommend give the more earnest heed to ensuring your heart is bearing the good fruit of reverence and fear. And while others are struggling and crawling through the dark, the path you follow will always be clear. Now, here is today's assignment. Meditate on the word you have heard today. And as always, ask the Father to reveal the truth to you. For the children of Elohim live by conviction. And if he has not convicted you, or if you had not heard him concerning these matters, you should pray until you do. Today, I want you to meditate on the word I have shared. Specifically, I want you to meditate on the power of reverence and ask yourself the following question. Am I bringing forth good fruit and the fear of Elohim? My dear friend, this should not be a difficult matter to uncover. All you have to do is determine if you respect every aspect of Yahuwah's great creation accordingly and in line with your spiritual values system. If you are, then you will be ready for the next lesson in this series. You, my friend, will be ready for the main event in your war with prejudice, to wit, your battles with the spirit of irreverence, which we will address in 2 days. Now, here is what's next. We conclude today's podcast, End Times 477, an intro to reverence. And the next podcast is entitled End Times 478, Your Victory Over Irreverence, Part 1. I will post this podcast on Friday, May 30th, 2025. Until then, my friends, continue to be led by the Spirit of Elohim. Continue to watch, continue to pray, continue in fasting, and most of all, continue to be focused, for the end is coming. The end is near.